Well, I'm sitting here with one of the fathers of classic video gaming, Mr. David Crane, the co-founder of Activision. And Mr. Crane, it's good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
I wanted to ask, Activision was one of the first groups that started to treat their designers and programmers as artists and give them the fanfare that they actually deserved. And now, today, gamers' minds are fixated on the names Miyamoto, Yu Suzuki, Hideo Kojima, and these people are honored for the games they've created. Do you believe that Activision, in the way that you've approached Activision to make the programmers something special, did that help move the creativity of games in a direction more towards the artist?
Well, it certainly moved toward recognizing individuals' contributions to games. At the time, video games were at Atari, and because of a corporate culture that wasn't really started at Atari, but when Atari sold to Warner Brothers is a big corporation, and they came in, and they thought of games as, it's a company product. It's no different than a microwave oven. And so the fact that this person worked on it or that person worked on it made no difference. But it turned out that through sales figures you could point out and say, wait a minute, this person must be really good at this because their game sold 50 times as much as the next person's. So when we did leave Atari, largely because of a lack of recognition, we just made it a point at Activision to recognize the designer of a video game as you would an author of a book.
Well, no, it's amazing. You used to have, if I'm not mistaken, the programmer's information right there, the designer's names right there in the back of the box, or was it in the manual itself?
In the manual, hints from the designer, again, patterned after the, inside back cover of a novel.
Now, the animosity between the programmers and Atari when they went corporate is well known. Was there an exact moment, a definitive thing that pushed you and some of your buddies to move on and decide to go out on your own?
Well, it was a long process, but it did culminate in a single statement. And we had looked at how well our games were selling in the market. The four of us who left Atari, how we were how successful our games were. And we were making so much money for Atari that we went to the president of Atari at that point and just said, we're making a lot of money for Atari. Can we get a bonus or something? And basically he looked us in the eye and gave us the corporate line. He said that you are no more important to that product than the person on the assembly line who put it together. So we knew at that point that if we were looking for some sort of recognition for a job well done, we weren't going to get it there.
Well, I can understand that was a frustrating moment when you had to move on from there and actually develop a company and get the organization in place. What challenges did you have? How did you? I mean, you guys went from designers and the creative side into business. What was the challenges that you had to work with, and what did you have in place? Were you guys planning on this for a little while in the back scenes?
Well, it's actually interesting. We could tell that we didn't want to be involved with the corporate culture at Atari. And so our basic goal was just to put up a shingle and open up an office and design video games, probably for Atari, but as a contractor or something like that. And we went to a lawyer to ask the question, do we have to incorporate to do that? And he told us the benefits of incorporation over the partnership, yada, yada, yada. But then at the end of our discussion, he said, but then I have a personal friend who's in the process of starting a video game company, and you guys have got to get together with this guy. And that was Jim Levy, who turned out to be the president of Activision. And it was, being in the right place at the right time with the right skills, certainly. But he had already opened the door with a venture capitalist trying to get funding for this sort of thing, and the fit was just so perfect that we were in business only like 3 or 4 months after that.
Well, now to move it a little in a different direction, today we have the 10th anniversary of the Classic Gaming Expo, and retro video gaming has become a much larger industry and a larger fan base. People are looking back to their childhood, and sometimes a little, like for us, a little bit before our childhood, just a little bit, not by much. And it's a big thing. And what draws you to the Classic Gaming Expo?
Well, the primary reason that we first started coming here is in support of the guys who put this on. I mean, it's a labor of love. They work really hard to do this, and people come here to trade games. They come here to talk to other people who are classic gaming enthusiasts, but they also come because they want to hear the old stories from us old timers and that sort of thing. So I've come to this, I think, 7 of the last 10 years. And I sit up at a podium and people ask me questions and I get to relay all the old stories. Basically classic gaming, the tenet of classic gaming is that you don't need high technology to have a fun game. The game business has evolved the machines out there can do 500,000 polygon rendering per second, whatever the number is now. But that doesn't make a more fun game. And so the classic gaming enthusiasts say, look, I can play a 30-year-old game and still find it to be as much fun, if not more fun, than a game on a current system.
Well, you're credited for having pretty much begun one of the greatest third-party licensors of all time. And so what are you up to these days? What are you doing now?
Well, I've been doing it for quite a while. This is my 30th year designing video games. I still design video games every day. That's what I do. Kind of the Charles Schultz of video games, who, he drew every frame of Peanuts and thought of every joke for 50 years, and then he died. So I got at least 20 years to go. But what I do right now, I have a company, Skyworks Technologies, and we treat the internet and the browser as a casual gaming platform. There is a term now, you've heard it, it's called casual gaming, and Microsoft is going to make you believe that they invented it with their Xbox Live. Yeah. But the fact is, it's what we did 30 years ago. The games that we created back then were not for the nerd video game player who's going to lock himself in his room. It was in the living room, and the whole family played the games. Everybody likes to play games. They still do. It's not just a young person's thing. And so we develop casual games that you can play for 15, 20 minutes on your browser when you need a break, rather than console games that you have to play for 150 hours just to get out of the city. Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Happy to be here.
And we'll be bringing more to you from the Classic Gaming Expo here at the Riviera in Las Vegas, Nevada.